Mara Han starts off as your typical turbo loser, crippled by social anxiety and a serious case of tism. But as the story unfolds, he transforms into the coldest, most emotionless Chad of all time. In a world where everyone has a single talent, his absolute menace breaks the system by devouring monsters to steal and stack their skills infinitely. Bo, and he's got a superior named Kang, a ripped badass girl whose abs you definitely shouldn't be thinking about licking. One might say Maru's got it easy, but in reality, odds are completely stacked against him. In just 1 year, monsters will rain from the sky, plunging the world into chaos, and it'll be up to him to stop it. But before all hell breaks loose, let's rewind a bit. The story begins in a restricted area in a camp in the middle of the forest. Hadai is lying on the ground with blood on his shirt. In front of him, a bunch of people are dead. Desperate, he says that there's something inside this yellow dust. The outline of something approaches the Dai, drawing a gigantic sword completely bathed in red with a few bells on the tip. The boy begs for help, but at that very moment, a strange creature leaps out of the bushes and grabs his foot. The guy is dragged into the smoke, leaving a trail behind. Sometime later, his body is found dead. A group of friends looks at him, commenting that he shouldn't have been wandering around there. The one of classes complains that now they'll have to mark it as a casualty, while the one with black hair says that, judging by the footprints, they'll have to start working before it's too late. That's when the beautiful one hears the sound of water beside her. The three turn around and she starts moving with her hand in her pocket. She pulls out a knife and makes a cut on her hand. The blade becomes bathed and then her blood seems to interact with the sword, beginning to flow up her arm. The one with glasses then points to the dust and says it's coming. The girl takes a step forward and responds that she'll handle it. That little knife appears to have absorbed her entire arm and has now turned into a massive sword. On her back, it shows that she is part of the Yellow Dust Task Force. The scene then shifts to a completely different place. In a building, a job interview for public service in the city of Seoul is taking place. A bunch of people are in the waiting room while numbers are called. In the bathroom, someone says they feel like they're about to die. He doesn't want to go in, he just wants to go home. His heart is about to explode. With his hand on his chest, heart racing, he says this is impossible. He goes to the sink, splashes water on his face, and tries to calm down, repeating to himself that yes, he can do it. He just needs to take a few more pills, and even though there are a lot, at least they work. Suddenly, he glances to the side and a blue bird lands on a branch. The tiny animal looks at him and the guy stares back intently. After a second of silence, the creature opens a big eye, asking what he's looking at and telling him he's screwed. However, the guy isn't even that shaken, just commenting that panic attacks really are a disaster. Meanwhile, on the way to the interview room, the news report shows that 4 guys who are camping witnessing your province. Our protagonist keeps walking, telling himself that he can do it. His name is Manhwa Han. He's 29 years old and the most average person possible. He's just an ordinary student from a regular school who graduated from a mediocre university and is struggling to find a job. Man, that's his mother unscared. Heaven knows what's bigger, her heart or her jaw. This is the 5th year that our guy has been trying to become a public servant, and only now has he reached the interview stage. At that moment, a woman enters the room and calls his name. He immediately stands up excitedly, saying he's here, while repeating to himself at this time he'll definitely make it. The guy marches stiffly, telling himself it's going to be easy, until he comes face to face with the big boss behind the laptop staring at him. The guy's fall is hard, and the interviewer asks why he wants to become a civil servant. He blurts out awkwardly, shouting that he wants to give back to the community and help society. Yeah, that's it. But in his head, he's thinking that what he actually wants is stability, a steady salary, a secure life, and not too many adventures. Then the interviewer asks what he would do if his superior did something wrong. Mara replies that honestly, he would point out what the person did wrong and try to find a solution, but would remain flexible and positive. He knows that if he says he wouldn't do anything, these guys won't approve him, so he's just lying, as if he would actually get involved in other people's business. The guy then asks how he handles people. With a bright and confident smile, he says he's terrible at it. He can't communicate well, gets stressed easily, and was bullied at school because of his panic attacks and everything else. That's what he said, but in his head, he was going to say that he's super friendly, has great friends, and still keeps in touch with his classmates. The interviewer looks confused, and the fool realizes he said what he was supposed to think and thought what he was supposed to say. What an idiot. The guy just clears his throat and says they'll move on to the last question. Even a flash of light reflects off his glasses as he asks how Maru handled the most difficult moment of his life. Looking like a complete fool, Maru says that life has been pretty easy for him, and he hasn't really gone through much. But the guy insists, telling him to just mention any problem that comes to mind. Maru, all twisted up, says that nothing really comes to mind, except for that time he went to the mountains with his father. That's when he recalls a memory of himself near that yellow mist. His heart starts racing and he remembers the black creature with golden eyes staring at him. Now his breathing becomes shallow. The creature in front of him, the countless eyes sprouting from its head, with a pile of bloody bodies on the ground while Maru was still just a child. Now frozen in the interview, his vision begins to blur and the chair tilts backward, making him fall to the ground. He stares at the ceiling, everything spinning, until the interviewer approaches, calling for Mr. Han, shaking his shoulders and asking if he's okay. However, in the middle of his panic attack, the boy tries to hold back his bonnet. Too late. The interviewer must have gotten completely drenched. And just like that, we're back at his house with him sprawled out on the bed, mumbling, but it was a disaster. He's sure the interview is a lost cause. Now without a job, without a girlfriend, and without friends, how is he supposed to live an ordinary life? Suddenly, someone knocks on the door. He has no idea who it is. Still a mess, he stumbles to the door and opens it, asking what it is. Man, it's a Giga Chad woman. Or maybe it's not even a woman, I can't say for sure. A towering Humet asks why he didn't answer sooner. He calls her mom, but then sees her stepping into the room. 3 meters tall, built like a JoJo character. But of course, a mother is always a mother. She says she brought him some food and was about to leave. He thanks her, asking if there's any meat. She replies that there isn't, just kimchi and beans. He thanks her anyway. With a jawline that would make Nguyen practitioners jealous, she glances around and notices that all he's been eating is instant noodles, dirtying napkins, and drinking soda. Meanwhile, he sits there, all crooked but happy with his meal. Seeing the mess around him, she starts tidying up, wondering how he can live in such filth. He says he'll clean it later, but she's more interested in how the interview went. That's the final blow. Now the poor guy slumps to the floor, completely defeated. He mutters to himself that there's no way he's telling her he vomited on the interviewer. His mother crosses her arms and smacks his back, saying that if he can't even pass this one, there's no point in worrying. While he suffers, she keeps quinning. A while later, she even hands him some pocket money. He'd move back her kindness but refuses, saying that he's an adult now and needs to work. But man, she just stretches out her massive arm, activating every muscle, and he immediately accepts. She scratches her gigantic chin and comments that if he failed the interview, then his shaman must have been right. She then tells him that he has to visit the mountain. For a moment, he looks terrified, but in the next, we're already there. The sun is blazing and the guy is wearing a sweater and pants. Now that's a true otaku. As he wonders how many years it's been, he realizes he never imagined he'd be back here, stand in front of the mountain where everything happened. But that he remembers that his mother spoke with an excellent shaman, consulting about why he couldn't land a job. The shaman's response was that it wasn't due to his panic attacks or ADHD. It was because his father, who died 20 years ago and mysteriously disappeared, had left a barrier on his soul that needed to be cleansed. Until he did that, he wouldn't be able to move forward in life. To become a public servant, he had to make an offering on the mountain to appease his father's soul. But after walking so much, he has no idea when he'll finally reach his destination. Until, after a while, he stands before a gate and says, "This is it." He opens it and pauses for a second, bites into the side. At that moment, he seems to see an identical version of himself. Given its transparency, I guess is either a soul or a memory. The boy rushes to the house's entrance and slowly starts opening the door. Inside, a man stands with his back turned. Maru fully opens the door and just stands there staring. After a moment, he moves closer, tugs at his father's pant leg, and says he's hungry. But his father seems to have a strange expression and suddenly starts screaming. The boy flinches, and with that, the illusion vanishes. Then he feels a sharp pain in his chest and realizes that another panic attack is coming. He takes a deep breath and exhales. A bit calmer now, he reaches into his backpack, pulls out the liquor, and pours it into a cup. He tosses it around the house while telling his father that he hopes he's having fun wherever he is. He explains that he only came because his mother asked him to, asking his father to rest in peace. That's why he's there, to offer prayers to the spirits of the mountain. It recounts that after his father passed, his mother worked tirelessly so he could grow up and find a job. As he performs the prayer and offering, that yellow dust starts creeping in. Maru wonders if all this smoke is because there's a fire in the mountain. He starts running, reminding himself that safety comes first. But then he hears a strange voice echoing, repeating, "Safety first." He wonders if it was just an echo and looks back. Within the yellow mist, a figure emerges. "Man, you've seen this before, so why are you still standing there?" A blooded-bellied, burst-headed monster appears, repeating, "Safety first." Poor Maru has so many hallucinations that he assumes it's just another one. He wipes his eyes, expecting it to disappear. But whatever it is, it keeps approaching him. He knows something is wrong and that he better start running. But then something pierces for his stomach. Already on his knees, he wonders if this is how he's going to die. Spending his whole life studying, struggling to get a job, never even getting to enjoy anything. On the other hand, at least if he dies, he won't have to worry about work or bills anymore. He smirks, saying that he knows no one will care. But then he remembers his Judah Chad mother. She always worked hard, supported him no matter what, and was happy just to see her son doing well. The courage of Judah Chad runs through his veins, and he starts getting up, even with that thing still impaled in him, saying he won't die here. However, the creature catches a scent and, looking all strange, starts moving toward him. Repeating the same words about safety first, the monster moves in to take a bite, and inside its mouth, an eye is visible. The creature latches onto Maru's waist, and he tries to push his torso away to avoid being bitten. However, the monster's mouth is huge, and it sinks its teeth into his shoulder. The poor guy screams in agony, thinking to himself that if this keeps up, I'll pass out. That's when he remembers his father telling him to eat. Well, if the monster can bite, so can he. He bites into the creature's neck, tearing off a chunk. Damn, this boy is brutal. The monster never expected the tables to turn like this and now is writhing in pain while the massive eye inside its mouth keeps staring at him. From within its iris, a dark energy spreads, leaking out its head. Mara's mind is suddenly flooded with visions of countless bodies being dragged away by these creatures, a kind of carnage where the monsters slaughter each other. Watching over all of it is a strange green eye, observing the battlefield from above. Mara tries to comprehend what he's seen, who is speaking to him, and whether he might already be dead. His mouth is filled with a metallic taste, and he wonders if this is the taste of death. Someone calls his name. Once again, he wonders who it could be this time. Slowly, he opens his eyes and a guide at his left asks what he's doing in a restricted area. With his mouth still bloody, Maru is confused and quickly stands up in shock. He immediately looks around, wondering where that monster went or the creature that emerged from the yellow dust. The guy in a Hawaiian shirt wants to know what Maru saw and what he said. Maru explains that a yellow mist appeared beside him. He was attacked by a monster, and now he just woke up. He was sure he was going to die because his stomach had been pierced through. The people who found him exchange glances and signal to each other. The guy in a Hawaiian shirt comments that when the alarm went off about a demon, he thought it was a false alert, but apparently it wasn't. Moreover, it looks like this kid killed it. The girl responds that it's impossible. Sure, you can gain a demon's power through its blood, but you can't immediately use its abilities. The guy glances at Maru, calls his name, and asks if he knows what happened yesterday. Standing there in his torn shirt like some kind of fashion challenger, Maru wonders what he means by yesterday. Then he looks at his foe and nearly jumps. He's been unconscious for an entire day. Meanwhile, the dude comments that if he survived for this long, he definitely gained abilities. The girl says it's too soon to make any claim since he just woke up and won't understand the situation yet. The guy reassures her, saying not to worry, that everyone goes through this, and places his hands on Maru's shoulders, saying he arrived at the perfect time. He's going to have to participate. Maru has no idea what the guy means, but he's told to change his clothes first since his current ones are in tatters. A short time later, they're back at the port for the orientation for new employees in the special service. Now Maru is sitting there in his old shirt, completely lost. How did he suddenly end up at an orientation for government officials? Not to mention the atmosphere is anything but welcoming. Everyone looks strange with unsettling expressions. That's when someone in red clogs walks in. She tugs on her pants and damn, another Jita Chad woman. Seriously, is everyone here doing mewing? She introduces herself as Yu Young, head of this place, and welcomes the new employees. Maury raises his hand and says that maybe he shouldn't be participating in this event, but she just tells him not to worry, that she just received his information and he's been admitted. Congratulations, he's a new hire. The poor guy stands there completely baffled by what this crazy woman is talking about. She continues with her script saying that everyone here should already be familiar with the special employees of this place. Their job is to protect lives. First and foremost, they are not allowed to tell their family, relatives, or anyone close to them that they work here. If this information leaks, they will be punished for violating national security laws. Marva thinks to himself that this is an extremely serious statement. Yu Men says that everyone here must have received new demon abilities this month. When a demon's blood enters your bloodstream, there's a small chance of gaining an ability. Right away, Marva realizes that this must have happened when he bit the monster's neck. She continues saying that their lucky demons currently only inhabit the mountains. The yellow dust is the first sign that a demon is about to appear. Its concentration ranges from 1 to 10. Obviously, the more dust, the stronger the creature. She then calls for Xianwu, who raises his hand. She remarks that since he received the ability from a level 7 creature, she's looking forward to seeing his potential. The handsome Dai responds confidently saying he'll do his best and she doesn't need to worry. Then Yudong shifts her attention to Maru. She mentions that he received an ability from a level 1 demon and asks what it is. Still disoriented, he admits that he has no idea what his ability is yet. Immediately, some smug bastard nearby starts laughing. That deserves a bite on the neck, or maybe not. Something tells me that would be peculiar. Better let it slide. Margot feels annoyed but decides to ignore it. After all, his priority is to get out of this place as soon as possible. Suddenly, a loud alarm blares in the room. Vudum says it's perfect timing. This is the warning that a demon has appeared. The very next moment, they're climbing the mountain. She announces that it's time for their practical test, the perfect opportunity for them to test their new abilities. Of course, the one questioning why the hell he's even here is our dear Maru. What he really wants is to get out of here before things get dangerous. But just as he's thinking once again about safety, he encounters the damned yellow dust. His expression says it all. He's scared shitless. Then through the thick fog, he sees the silhouette of a woman. It's the mummy-orange girl and he wonders if she's okay. At that moment, she turns around and Maru is startled. She had impaled a 3-meter-tall creature with a stick. Maru stumbles to the ground in shock while everyone else looks on in awe. Yu tells them all to pay attention because the practical test has begun. The creature in front of them looks strong, but it's just a rank 1 demon, the weakest there is. Captain Kang had already pinned it against the wall, so no one needed to worry. Kang, however, was more interested in the kid with the dumbstruck face, the one who somehow killed a demon all by himself yesterday. She was curious about the potential of someone who gained powers at the exact moment they faced a creature, since that was extremely rare. Yu Yam, on the other hand, was excited. She ordered everyone to start using their abilities. While our boy was just standing there in the cold, staring at that massive creature, thinking that this woman had lost her mind. How was he supposed to fight something like that? A panic attack surged back, his chest tightened, and breathing became difficult. In a blink of an eye, he found himself standing on top of a red river. A creature with black limbs approached. It seemed to be some kind of woman-dog hybrid, covered in shaggy hair. Ugly as hell. He was just standing there, suffering quietly, when the monster nearly placed its hand on his head. The creature grasped his entire skull, shifted to the side, and told him to eat. So the bastard's got a Naruto Kyuubi situation going on in his head. But on the outside, he was given off serious Tokyo Ghoul vibes. Because while everyone else was tense, he was practically drooling, saying he wanted to eat. And not just a little drool, no, this was some high-quality illustrated saliva. Someone touched his shoulder, startling him. It was Xiangwu, asking if he was laughing out of sheer terror. Honest as ever, Maru responded that no, he was just starving. Man, I already want to punch this damn Xiangwu for thinking Maru is pathetic for being hungry at a time like this. Now that I know our boy is Tokyo Ghoul, maybe he really does deserve a bite. Maru calmed himself down, wondering what the hell that was and why he was so hungry. At the top of the mountain, Yu Young called for everyone's attention. Before he could use their abilities, she needed to explain the basics. She clarified that the very existence of the yellow mist was due to the demons. Obviously, the stronger the demon, the more mist it produced. She then pulled out a knife and said that wasn't all. Making a small cut on her hand, she explained that those who had received demon powers also had enhanced regeneration when inside the mist. However, the fatal wound would still kill them, so they needed to be careful. Additionally, their powers only activated within the mist while fighting creatures. Outside of it, they were nothing more than ordinary people. Sunwoo, the most humble man in Korea, yawned and asked how long she was going to keep talking. The most important part should have been mentioned first, how to activate the power. He then said he'd give it a try. Biting his own lip, blood started to flow and the yellow mist drifted toward him. Something within him seemed to activate. He felt his strength increasing, his eyes turned golden. The secret was to let the mist enter his bloodstream. He put on a glove and declared that it was time to begin. Suddenly, the stake had been lodged and the monster's head exploded. Kang shouted for everyone to be careful as the yellow mist began surrounding them. Now free, the monster started moving, letting out a roar in their direction before slamming the ground. The poor newbies who had just started this job were already terrified. Kang moved to intervene, but Yu Young ordered her to stay put. Kang insisted that this was too much for beginners. But Yu Young still refused, saying that this was the perfect time for practice. If they couldn't handle a level 1 creature, it would just die anyway. The monster suddenly sniffed the air and locked eyes directly on Maru, who was standing there, scared stiff. He immediately wondered why this damn thing was looking at him. Then, out of nowhere, the monster's hand opened and a knife shot out, flying straight at Maru. Damn thing was fast. Maru took a hit to the arm, collapsing to the ground in agony. Kang felt sorry for him as he writhed in pain. He got back up, arm throbbing, but the monster was already closing in, ready to crush him. The beast landed right beside him, creeping closer. The two locked eyes as it reached out. But suddenly something burst out of the ground. A monstrous centipede wrapped itself around the creature. It was choking the beast, staring it down. Turns out, this was Semwoo's ability, the demon centipede. For someone who loves being handsome, his power was ugly as hell. Then Afino stirred an attack from behind, slicing the monster's head. Her ability was from the Rojo demon, whatever that was. What did you know is that the monster just lost half its brain and was now screaming toward the sky, spreading more mist. But girl smirks, saying at least they had won. But then the yellow mist swirled back into the monster's head, restoring it completely. Now the idiots realized that the creature's regeneration was also insanely powerful. The monster grabbed the centipede and yanked it from Samwoo's neck. Since it was connected to his arm, the creature used it like a whip, flinging Samwoo into the girl. Then it pulled Samwoo back in, squeezing him tight. This thing was petty, opening its massive mouth that prepared to take a bite, when suddenly, something snapped inside a glove. The monster's neck twisted violently, and it let go of Shenwu. Now it made sense. Cinema wasn't just some flashy dude. The bastard was stylish. He had the ability of the temple demon. Apparently, when he broke his own bones, he could break the monster's too. The creature lunged at him, but Shenwu took off his glove and shattered his own wrist, telling it to die. With that, the monster's entire neck twisted and exploded. Its body collapsed to the ground, leaving its head at his feet like a soccer ball. Xianggu explained that once a demon's head was severed, it could no longer emit or absorb mist. So that was it. The rest of the trainees were left stunned. He commented that it was a good chance to test something new. But then Kane appeared behind him and asked if he intentionally broke her stake to wake up the demon. The kid in villain potential. He simply denied it. No, of course not. Where was the proof? But she grabbed his arm and said they could find out real quick, by breaking his fingers to see if her weapon shattered again. With that, Yudong clapped her hands, cutting in and praising Shanwoo for doing well on his first try. However, someone was missing. Our boy had bolted out of there. He wanted no part in this, working a job like this. No way. He wanted a peaceful, ordinary life, not one where he had to fight demons with cursed powers. But someone needed to tell them that Yu was the protagonist of this story, so he wouldn't be escaping the action anytime soon. Yu Young shook her head, saying that someone who ran away like that wasn't qualified to be a special agent. Meanwhile, Kang was still trying to process what she had seen earlier. There were countless targets in that area, yet the creature had clearly chosen to go after him. Yu Yan immediately ordered them to find him and check if he was still alive. But then Kang was the only one who noticed the obvious. Why hadn't the yellow mist disappeared if the leader was dead? Now everyone else started wondering the same thing. Meanwhile, Maru stood in front of a gate that was exuding an insane amount of mist. He wondered why it was there. At that very moment, a new monster appeared. The thing was huge, at least 15 meters tall, and Maru immediately ducked behind a bush. Why him again? Of all people, why did he, the one most desperate to escape, have to run into something like this? He took another peek to see if it had vanished, but nope. The monster was right behind him. Just then, the TikToker with the dyed hair called for Kang Chana. Yeah, that's her name, folks. She asked what was going on, and he said he had received an alert from headquarters. A level 3 demon had been detected in the area. Yu Young found it odd. Demons didn't usually show up one after another like this. Kang wanted to know where, and well, we could already guess, couldn't we? Our boy was running for his life through the restricted area, skidding across the ground, shouting for help, until he tripped over a rock and face planted. He got up and spotted that same house, his father's house. At least he knew this place and where to hide. He dashed to a house with an iron door and slipped behind it, panting, wondering what the hell that thing was. He peeped through a gap, reassuring himself that there was nowhere the monster would follow him this far. Of course, it was right there. Why the hell was this thing so obsessed with him? Not to mention he had no idea what those things floating around its head were. Just then, he heard the sound of the gate opening. An old man stepped inside, calling out for someone and wondering why there was so much yellow mist in the air. The old guy's cataracts were bad. He couldn't even see the 15-meter-tall monster standing right in front of him. Meanwhile, the creature was grinning, ready to devour him. Maru knew he had to do something to save this old man before he got killed. The problem? He wasn't strong enough. How was he supposed to pull this off? That's when he remembered what Yu Young had explained. Those who had received demon abilities could regenerate wounds while inside the mist. However, a fatal wound would still be enough to kill him. His hands trembled. He knew he might die. Maybe he should just stay hidden and save himself instead of throwing his life away for some stranger. The old man squinted into the distance, asking if that was Chansek's mother. Even the monster seemed confused, repeating her words. The old woman took a step forward, scolding it for mimicking her. Then she froze. Now that was close. Her eyesight might have been bad, but this close-up, her cataracts weren't a problem anymore. She could see the massive creature standing right in front of her. Terrified, she stumbled back, struggling to comprehend what she was looking at. Meanwhile, the monster just kept repeating her words. It raised a single finger and Spikes took aim. Then, it attacked. Blood splattered. It hadn't been $1 million that Maru had thrown herself in front of it and taken the hit. Sure enough, as the old woman slowly opened her eyes, she found the boy bleeding out in her lap. He weakly asked her she was okay. She said yes, but he collapsed onto her, missing an arm and paled all over. Man, this kid suffers. Struggling to stay conscious, he told the old lady to run, wondering why he had been cursed with a level 1 ability. His power was as useless as the resumes he sent to companies. In the end, he was going to die, and he wouldn't even be able to save the old woman. All he wanted was for someone stronger to show up and save him for once. As he lay there waiting for help, a yellow mist began seeping into his arm. Veins started surfacing on his neck. And here came a telltale cultural artwork drool. Then, in a sudden burst, he lunged straight at the monster, to bite it. Meanwhile, Kang was sprinkling through the forest. She heard a scream behind her and turned. She burst through the gate, only to witness something insane. Maru was feasting on the monster's neck. Horrified, she couldn't comprehend what this rookie was doing. The creature grabbed Maru by the head and slammed him against the wall. He was barely conscious, but it looked like he had swallowed the chunk he bit off. The monster, on the other hand, was furious. The little bastard had taken a bite out of him. As the monster tried to flee, Kang noticed something. The part that Maru had bitten wasn't regenerating. She didn't understand why, but this wasn't the time to worry about that. She charged at the monster, leaping high and grabbing one of its crystals. With that, she activated her steel demon ability, transforming the crystal into a sword. The monster roared, hurling spikes at her. She turned just in time and reflected them all with the blade. The creature was forced to defend itself against its own attack, but now she was right in front of it, deadly, beautiful, with a precise vertical slash. The creature was split in half, and with that, it crumbled into dust. The battle was finally over. Blood rained over the scene, drenching the area in red. She approached the old woman, asking if she was okay. The woman seemed to have fainted. Moments later, she suddenly woke up confused. Kang, now completely clean, crumbly, because the blood had turned to dust, casually reassured her, saying that wild boar had passed through. That was all. The old woman muttered that boars often passed by around here. Kang assured her not to worry. She would handle the problem. The woman thanked her for her hard work and returned home. Kane's expression changed immediately. She turned toward Maro, determined to find out what this kid was. She had never heard of someone with a level 1 ability regenerating an entire arm out of nowhere. In theory, his ability should have been weak. Cut to our boy screaming in frustration. He had just received a message saying he would be starting work tomorrow, but after remembering that spike monster that nearly killed him, he had zero interest in showing up for that job. Maro collapsed onto his bed, muttering that there was no way he was going to that job. But on the other hand, he really did need work. Desperate for a job or not, he was too exhausted to think, so he decided to just sleep. However, if there was one thing this gang ever got, it was a moment of peace. As always, he was dreaming about that war where the red monsters devoured and slaughtered each other. A voice called out, telling him to come back. Suddenly, he woke up in a cold sweat, panting, staring at his hands, unable to make sense of what he had just experienced. Morning had already arrived. He glanced outside, only to see that the entire mountain was on fire. Amidst the burning trees and bushes, a creature made of ashes was walking, setting everything ablaze. Then a soaking wet girl appeared, throwing water at it. To be honest, those little splashes weren't going to do much. But she wasn't alone. Another person arrived and launched an ice attack. The monster's leg froze solid, turning it into an oversized popsicle. The girl called for the leader, noting how strange it was creatures like this weren't supposed to appear at night. But the guy told her not to worry about that yet. First, they had to stop the fire from spreading. The monster was beginning to melt the ice. He pulled out 2 swords, saying he would take care of it. He charged toward the creature. But right at that moment, something emerged from his forehead. A sinister eye opened, issuing a command, "Bring that person." Instantly, the monster broke free. The captain and the creature closed in on each other. One prepared to slash, the other about to throw a punch. At the very least, the guy managed to block, but even then, he was sent flying into a tree, crashing hard against it. He was wrecked. The soaking wet girl called for the leader, panicked. But the creature hunched down in a cauldron form on its back. Lava began to spill out, and the captain realized that the monster was getting bigger and stronger. Meanwhile, the headquarters and Seoul, the monitors were flashing red, blaring emergency alerts. Yu Young demanded a status report. With all these warning signals, it was obvious things were going south fast. A staff member reported that 20 mountains were under attack simultaneously. The way these creatures were appearing had suddenly changed. This had only started happening this week, but no one knew why. One of the staff members interrupted, saying they were getting an urgent call from Busan. Yu Young answered, asking what the issue was. Anne was immediately greeted with, "Hey, big sis." The caller was Ba Myung-sik, director of the Busan division. He wanted to know what she was planning to visit his city. She sighed, greeted him, then told him to get to the point. That's when he explained what was happening. There had been a portal open for 3 days straight. Yu Young was stunned. How was that even possible? Reachers just kept pouring out. The team in charge of the area was exhausted, fighting non-stop with no end in sight. Yudon asked why the portal wasn't closing had they identified the cause. Myonsik said that the monster they were dealing with just kept repeating the same thing over and over. They even sent a girl with interpreter abilities to figure it out. The monster's message, "Bring that person." As the creature continued rampaging, Young asked who exactly this person was. Myonsik admitted that was the problem. They had no idea. He didn't know who it was, but whoever it was needed to show up fast. Yudon then made a call to someone in a helicopter. The guide picked up, asking what the problem was. She quickly explained the situation on the mountain. Without hesitation, the guy stepped to the edge of the helicopter and simply said, "I'm on my way." He told her he'd call back once he had handled things. And with that, he leaped, plunging through the air like a shooting star. On his way down, he passed through a wave of yellow mist. The spy had zero fear. Then, all of a sudden, he activated spatial inversion, suspending himself midair. He landed gracefully on top of the gate. The people below were shocked. Who was this lunatic who just dropped in out of nowhere? One of the women yelled for him to get down. It was dangerous. Meanwhile, the red-hooded demon grinned, seemingly pleased by his arrival. It lunged at the woman, aiming for a piercing kick. She barely managed to dodge. The problem was, now the monster was right above her. She had no way to escape. But then, the newcomer reached into thin air, opened his spatial tear, and ripped out the monster's entire spinal column. The creature froze in shock. He casually congratulated everyone for their hard work, saying they could rest now. From here on out, he would handle things. The captain was thrilled, but the girl wanted to know, who was this guy? The captain explained. This was the first ever special ability user, the founder of the task force. The guy stretched, placed a hand on the ground, and said, "Let's get this over with." He was the strongest demon ability user. Director John Ildo. Purple lines spread across the ground, reaching toward the mist. They rose, higher, higher, until they towered above the moon itself. From afar, everyone saw it, wondering what the hell that thing was. The guy with glasses admitted he had never seen this in person before. But in theory, this was the most powerful spatial ability in existence. Jiang was carving a path straight into the yellow mist. Meanwhile, back on the burning mountain, the magma monster had grown even larger, and the ice water dew couldn't hold out any longer. The girl had collapsed. The guy called for her to get up, or they were both going to die. The lava beast charged again. The ice user desperately raised a barrier, but the monster smashed through it. sending him flying. They kept attacking, hammering at him repeatedly, until his shield shattered. He crashed to the ground, gasping for breath. He knew this was it. This was how he was going to die. But then, a rift appeared behind the monster. Zhang yanked the beast's head through it, hurling the entire thing away. The explosion sent crows scattering through the sky. Zhang declared there was time to take care of this monster. Not just this one, but all of them.